殺道五種大法華経師匠無上大菩提これやこれ百尊出世の本願主上成仏の直道なり慶州妙法蓮華経サッダルマフンダリキャスタラン一筆八軸七子本六万九千三八子一一門門是神仏神仏説法理史上史上海具上仏道古賀将来妙法華経 Good evening. I'd like to talk about Lotus Sutra tonight. This is the essential teaching of the Ikayana Buddhism. Good evening. Ikayana Buddhism. That is one vehicle. We have many teachings in Buddhism. Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana, Ikayana. We have many different teachings. But among them, Ikayana is the true Buddhism because it was the Buddha's vehicle. Vehicle is a cart or riding. I say that's a cart. You know, it's the wagon. So only Buddha can get on. All other creatures or all others beings cannot get in except Buddha. That is Buddha's purpose of his birth in this world. In the point of view of the Buddha, everything in existence in this world is enlightened nature from the beginning. There is no other beings except Buddha and Buddhas. So he attained to the supreme equal enlightenment, which was called Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Anuttara is the supreme or utmost. And Samyak is equal. And enlightenment is no obstruction. It is a peaceful stage, mental stage. So that is Buddha's mental stage. That is called body. Sometimes we call it nirvana, tranquility, quiescence. Body and nirvana are almost identical meaning. So he accomplished this supreme enlightenment and the equal enlightenment under the Bodhi tree at Buddha Gaya when he was 30th or 35th. There was not so, correct record at that time. So he died at the age of 80, and also in another opinions, he died at the 82. But it was not so, big problem, because his life is still continuing. His life is always permanent. That's why he never died. So this Lotus Sutra we call, or correct name was is Saddharma Pundalika Sutra. We have the list here. On the top, this is a Chinese character. Kumarajiva translated from Sanskrit to Chinese language. We have Sanskrit original text of the Saddharma Pundalika Sutra, many places. In a museum in London or Calcutta University, some other places. This is the last sutra of the Buddha, conclusive teaching. So it is very profound. I like to tell you about this sutra tonight. So, Myoho Renge-kyo, that is the wonderful law. Myo is wonderful. Ho is Dharma. Dharma has many different names in Sanskrit term. Original meaning of the Dharma was that which has some self-existences. That is Dharma. But later on, it became the different, another meaning. Teaching of a great man, like a Buddha, or the truth, universal truth. That is the meaning of Dharma. So, wonderful Dharma. Why we say so? Buddha said so. Everything is so wonderful. Because people cannot grasp it, cannot understand it, cannot conceive it. Everything is beyond human understanding. That's why the Buddha said everything is a wonderfulness. In other words, such. Buddha said such. Buddha himself was called, Tathagata, such calm. This flower is such calm because you don't know any about this. You cannot grasp this flower. For instance, people understand this flower has the color, smell. No, that is mistaken. Okay, this has no matter, no substance, no characteristics, no activities, no form, appearances. It has nothing. But the people do not understand it. When you study a little more about Buddhism, you can understand very easily. This is empty. And also, in another, that theory Buddha had, that everything is a human concept. That is doctrine of Vijnana Vadin. Vijnana Vadin. According to Vijnana Vadin, everything is concept because everybody see it and hear it, smell it, taste it, and touch it. That is experience. We are, experience, all are subjective things, and produce the mental picture, which is called concept, in our, mind. Therefore, this is only mental concept, mental images. That is your knowledge. But your knowledge is not flower. Concept of flower is not flower. You cannot understand this, flower itself. Only you can produce, same, mental picture in your mind. Therefore, you can remember it, that concept, and go home, and go to anywhere. But this flower is still here. So, understanding is always like this. Understanding is very, very deceptive, delusive. Therefore, human understanding is not true understanding, real understanding. It is only mental illusion, mental images. So, that people do not know, but when people understand, then they understand this is such as it is. Because it is not like this. You cannot understand, everything just like they are. Human understanding is only, that's own images, which caused by your misjudgment. That's why, Buddha said, this is only such. This suchness is called Buddha nature. Buddha himself was a such kind. And everything in existence, not the true existence, it is phenomenal existence, phenomenal reality. That is not true existences. Okay? Buddha, understood the true nature or true aspect of all beings, which was just such. In another word, it is Buddhata. Buddhata is the Buddha nature. So, everything is Buddha. That was his point of view. Even flower, even all, insect, animals, living creatures. Not only that, even, that floor, ceiling, houses, so all rock, mountains, rivers, sun, stars, moons, everything in the universe are empty. Nothing but, human concept. But this human concept, the Buddha said, that is suchness, or such. That is Buddhism. But many people misunderstand what Buddhism is. Buddhism is giving some profit to the person. No. When people understand that, they get, big, universal, merit or profit. They can get it. So, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. That is the title, title of the Lotus Sutra. Lotus Sutra is the Saddharma Pundalika Sutra. Wonderful law, that is like a lotus flower. Sutra, which means, like interdependent, just like that's the box or sacks when people put container and to put things in it. Just like a sutra is like my clothes. I wear it when I need it. Sutra is like that. Used to be, that's some literal things in sentence, with the expression in some languages. So, this is the title of Saddharma Pundalika Sutra. This Saddharma Pundalika Sutra, we call it Lotus Sutra. Lotus Sutra, in short. So, the first line, the most left line, this is Nam. Nam. Nam and Om, that is, same meaning. Sometimes esoteric Buddhism or in the Hinduism, they used to use that Om. And in the Lighting Sutra, like Buddhist scriptures, in those scriptures, Buddha chant some mantra. They call Om, Nam. So it is the same meaning, which refers adoration or believe, or believe. I believe in this sutra, or I put my faith in this sutra, like that. That is Nam. And next, wonderful. Everything is so wonderful because people cannot understand with their mind, but everybody can see it, can touch it, can hear it, can experience it. That's why, everything is so wonderful, so, subtle, so amazing. We have no other expression. So it's in Sanskrit term, it is sa, sadharma. Dharma is existences. All the existences are so sa, so sadharma. Human life is sa. Death is sa. Birth is sa. Therefore, everything is sadharma. Dharma is occurrence or happening or beings. All we call it dharma. Tree, plant is a dharma. My body is dharma. My mind is dharma. So everything is dharma. What kind of dharma? That is sad-dharma. Wonderful existence. That's why we call sadharma. This sadharma equals like a flower of the lotus. So lotus flower is very unusual plant. Its root is in growth in the deep mud. So when it grows bigger, it grows big bud. And this is stem. Some stems produce leaves. Some stem that produce bud, and it open into that's a flower. Flower is very, very beautiful. In the tropical country like India or southern Brazil or some other hot tropical countries, this flower is so beautiful. In the morning, when it opens, it makes a sound. Pop. So wonderful. I heard many times. Yeah, when I went to Texas and Houston, Dallas. In the center there is the big park, Central Park, and I sat on that bench near the pond, very early morning. So so this lotus flower, it's very high, 10 foot high. Leaves are like this. Flower is like this, So it's so wonderful. All are pink. I didn't see that's a white or some other color. Pink color. It was so wonderful. I thought, oh, wonderful. This is really lotus flower. So this flower opened, that's early morning. So close, in the evening. When the sun go down, it close, like this. And the next morning, it's open. So, yes, this flower is unusual because, it's a seed, in the center of the flower. This type of, shell, cell. Then there are many, many nuts in it. When flower open, seed, have already, produced in it. I don't know some other plants, the flower and the seed, produced, at the same time. This is a very special flower. Just like human, this seed is like a human, immatured, undeveloped, nature. But the flower is so beautiful, like Buddha's nature. You know, Buddha nature and human nature, produced at the same time. That's why Buddha called this flower is so wonderful, unusual. Just like the truth of Myoho, that's Saddharma. So, it's Myoho or Saddharma equals the lotus flower. This is, that's significant. That people, human nature and Buddha nature, exist at the same time. And our passion and the body, enlightenment, are the same nature. But the human mind are dualistic. They cannot understand this kind of oneness, doctrine, oneness, equality, doctrine of equality, because the people understand when East exists, West does not exist. When West exists, East does not exist. That is dualism. Human mind is always dualistic. Those human mind never understand this kind of flower or this myoho. And also life and death are dualistic by the human understanding. But it is not true. Now, life and death are the same thing. When you are living, you have no death. Okay? When you die, you have no death. You don't have any death. During you are living or during you are dead. You have no time to die. But the people, always misunderstand it. I'm living now, I shall die someday in the future. That is, that's a very, very, illogical understanding, dualistic understanding. It is not true. Wise men understand this kind of doctrine very intuitively. But ordinary, people understand with their knowledge, concept. Therefore, never understand this kind of oneness doctrine. So, you have fear of death all the time. You have fear of disease, sickness, and fear of getting old. That is foolish. It is illusion. Okay? Wise men never have this kind of illusions. And the sickness is only protection of our health. If we have no sickness, we die so soon. It is warning, alarm, in order to protect our, health. But the people hate sickness and getting old, decaying, or death. That is very foolish. Okay. Yeah, if you have some question, please ask me later, okay? Okay, so we call, that we check it again. This is Nam, I adore. I put my face into the teaching of this Saddharma Pundarika Sutra. And what is the meaning of Myo? I explained it. we have some other meaning. Just you read under it. One is equality and serenity, identity. And the second meaning of sat or myo, that is suchness or oneness. And the number 3, Buddha nature. And number 4, enlightenment, body. Number 5, tranquility. That is the nature of the nirvana. Number 6, peaceful land. That is Buddha land. And the 7 is blissfulness, bliss. And whole is all existences, all beings. That is called Dharma. But the people can see the aspect of Dharma only, without wonderfulness. So, therefore, people, this existence is very dirty, very impure, very, that's, how to say, agitated, very transient. And also, this Dharma is a phenomenal reality. We call so. For instance, this plant is a phenomenal reality, which is changing all the time. It doesn't stay even one short moment. This flower is changing so rapidly. It doesn't stay even in very, very, very short moment. No. That's why we cannot grasp it. We cannot, understand it. When we understand it, next moment this is a different flower. And your mind is different. You yourself must be different person. Because you are changing all the time. Now, there is no same person can live even very, very short moment. That's why your understanding is, cannot produce. So, the Dharma for the people are very, impermanent. But when we see, the permanency, permanence, unchangeable, changeable in the changing things, that is wisdom. So, Dharma has another significance. It is passion. We have many desires, we have many kind of sentiment, feeling, emotions. But that is illusion. There is no real emotion. There is no real feeling. That's why human happiness is not real happiness. Human suffering is not real suffering. It is nothing but delusive, illusion, delusive happiness. And the transmigration, everything is changing. So it is origination, duration, changing, and cessation, all are concept. Nothing can change in this whole universe. If you need more, explanation, please ask me later. Okay? There is no changing in this world. Okay? This flower is always permanent. Okay? Okay, if you do not understand, please, ask me. I like to explain it more in detail. This world is a suffering, burning world. People understand so. But this world is always permanent. Okay? Beyond, the origination and the duration and the cessation. This world is suffering. That is human understanding. Misunderstanding. This world, human life is not suffering. No, it's not a happy, life. Beyond happiness and suffering, what is that? Tranquil. No? Tranquil. When you understand this tranquility of the life, you must be very happy. That happiness is not dualistic happiness. It is, absolute happiness. Okay. I explain about the Lotus Sutra, lotus flower. Lotus is a plant. Flower is only dissolved. Plant is a course and the courses. Flower, is effect temporarily. But in this flower, it has a seed, original cause. Cause and the effect, are one thing. People understand the cause comes first, then effect comes later. No. That is human misjudgment. Okay. And also that ignorance and body enlightenment are different. People have much ignorance, so people have passions, greed, anger, and suspicion. And they will practice something. They study more wisdom. Then they will get out from their illusion. Ignorance and greed, also passions, and they get free someday in the future. But that kind of thinking is dualistic. Most of Buddhists understand that this, this is only the teaching of the Buddhism. No, they are ignorant. Okay? We must get out from a dualistic point of view. Otherwise, we have no enlightenment. Enlightenment must be right now, not tomorrow, not the future. We are enlightened right now. Okay? That is important. So, know that our mind is always undeveloped. That is human nature, we call. But that is a dualistic judgment. There is no development, no. Because we have no changing. Nothing changes. Time is not changing. Time is always right now, now. No changes. Okay? So, one more last one. in matureness, maturity. It is undeveloped, development, developed, same as idea. Undevelopment and immature, matureness, maturity. And this is whole included. That is called the Sutra of Saddharma Pundarika. Saddharma Pundarika. That this doctrine or this truth or this law, this teaching is the Buddha's final enlightenment, which was called Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, supreme equal enlightenment. So, that's Ekayanam Buddhist, like a Tendai Buddhist, Nichiren Buddhist, always chant the title of this sutra with their mouth and with their, that action or conduct. They put their two hands together. This is called mudra. Mudra. Mudra is just, that's the whole physical, the aspect, which is the most strongest, and also mindful aspect. This is the most, that's unbreakable, physical aspect. This is most strong aspect. Diamond mudra, we say. Diamond mudra. If some temptation or mara come to tempt, try to tempt us, when we make this gasho mudra, they can't do anything. They cannot disturb us when they see this, mudra. And also we have mental samadhi. Samadhi is put our mind in one single, point. That is called samadhi, kind of, meditation. Samadhi. That is, we picture, draw the true aspect of the universe. I show you someday. I bring my mandala, someday. So we think of mandala. That this is my enlightened world, in my mind. And we perform this kind of, this is mudra. And the chanting is called mantra. So we chant it verbally, and mentally, and physically. This, chant title of the Hokkekyo or Lotus Sutra. That is chanting, not the chanting meditation. This is chanting enlightenment. When we chant it once, that is, that the enlightenment. So, yeah. Do you try it once? Okay, put your hand together and think of the mandala. This universe is the world of enlightenment. This is equal enlightenment, not the Buddha's enlightenment. Equal enlightenment. This is my enlightenment. Okay? And chant this, truth. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho is Chinese sound. No? But you can chant, in Sanskrit term. Nam Saddama Pundalika Sutra. 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 This is okay. And one more way of chanting. After Nam, Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Nam Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Nam Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Nam Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Nam Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. This is the same, that's meaning. So, in Japan, many Nichiren people and Tendai people, they chant, morning and night. Even they are walking, they are doing something, Nammyo Horenge Kyo, Nammyo Horenge Kyo, like that. You don't need to chant loudly. Just, meditate your mind and think of your mandala. Mandala. Sometimes we call it Gohonzon. Gohonzon means, that's a Chinese sound of mandala. Gohonzon is a universal picture, enlightened world. That is, think of that in our mind, in our image. And Gassho. Why do we Gassho? This is the Buddha's conduct. So this is most respectful, self and others. Respectful conduct. Respect own self and others at the same time. That is the Buddha's conduct. That's why we put our hand together. When we do this, make this mudra, no temptation come near to and disturb and bother you. That's why this is very strong, attitude. Okay, do you have any question? Yes, please. Yes, sir.
Perhaps you could explain
Yes.
This duality a little clearer.
Okay. Yeah, I said the human mind is always realistic and dualistic. That's when you see this flower, at first you have a feeling, oh, how beautiful this flower is. But this flower is not beautiful, not ugly. Not ugly, yeah, not defiled. Because it has no self-existences, self-nature. Because color is a human sensation, not cessation, sensation, feeling. And smell is human feeling. And how about the form or matter? That is a human, imagination, judgment. And how about its beauty? Beauty is a human concept, not the flower's concept. Ask it. Oh, do you have a beautiful? Do you have a beauty? It will say nothing. So, it has no thought, no characteristics, no substances, no activities. Okay? all are human judgment. You know? Human always, when people understand something, they are, their concept, appears in their mind. But unfortunately, human mind, in our human mind, there is no one concept only can arise, appear, or occurs. Always our concept, appears relatively. Relatively means prettiness, ugliness are two opposite concepts. They appear at the same time. Otherwise, there is no pretty, concept of prettiness. Prettiness, concept of prettiness cannot appear by itself. Just like the concept of yeast cannot arise, by itself. It always arises, with the concept of, waste. So concept of yeast and the concept of waste arise at the same time. One is affirmative, the other is negative. Affirmative concept never arises by itself, without negative. That's why human understanding are dualistic. Yes. Yeah, some other question, please. Everything are relative, existence. Not only relative, like Einstein's theory. Everything are correlative, depend on each other. Interdependent existence. So all concepts are human concepts, are interdependent. Not, arise by itself or disappear by itself. No. That is a very stupid idea. But still human mind are undeveloped. I'm sorry to say that. That is my understanding. Okay? Not your understanding. No? That's why human mind is very realistic. What is a realistic understanding? Everything exists by itself. That is realism. Okay? For instance, this stick exists by itself without others or without, knower. But this stick does not exist by itself without knower. This is known. This is the object. When subject exists, this can be known by subject. That's why object cannot exist without a subject. Subject is human mind, usually. But most of people does not care, ignore subject or object. Everything exists by itself. This plant exists by itself. No, that is a very stupid, childish idea. Yeah. Yes, sir.
When can the subject not be the human mind?
Subject is sometimes, not always human mind, and dog's mind.
The dog's mind?
Yeah. Dogs knows, that's own master. Master is object, and the dog's mind is subject. Yes, sir. Do you know that that the plant has a mind? Yes. It is very subtle. People cannot understand it. But all matter has a mind. That is, scientist of this theory. No? The long time ago, the Dr. Opalin, that Russian scientist, he came to this country and Japan too about many years, 20 years ago. He theorized that, all matter has, mind. So mind and matter are inseparable. But concept of mind is a little broad, meaning. Human concept of mind is very, very small, meaning, and that is not meaning. It is conceptual, concept. People do not know anything except concept. Concept of things is not thing. Concept of this stick is not this stick. You don't know about this stick, anything about. Only you have only concept of this, okay, stick. That your knowledge of this stick is not this stick. So each person in this room has a different concept. And this person, bring your concept to this way. Another person go this way. But, thing is here. You cannot bring it home. But your concept is yours. So you can bring it home. Okay. Any other question, please? Yes, sir.
Well,
Oh, please.
couldn't you say that the nature of the concept, nature of the concept?
And the concept is another concept. That is nature.
Well, then we can't talk about mind at all then. Right?
Yeah, mind is a concept. That concept is when you cognize it. Mind is concept. That concept is another concept. So, concept is illusion, not in a thing.
And we can't say that the plant is mind because we don't know what mind is.
That's right. You don't know plant, what plant is.
And I don't know what mind is then either.
Yeah, that's true. Plant is your concept. But that concept is another your concept. That another your concept is another your concept. In the long run, the concept is, it's just illusion, not real. Not real existence. Do you think this is a trick? Logical trick? No. Yes, sir.
If that flower is the object, then what would be the subject?
Yeah, used to be, the subject is, that knower. Object is known. That is very important in the Western logic. Knower and known. This is the very important, element of the how to say epistemology. I'm sorry, thank you. Epistemology. Yeah. If there is no subject, that we have no knowledge or no knower, no cognition, no knower, no knower. There is no knower without no known. Knower and knower are, the dependency, depend on each other.
Except that's dualistic in Western thought.
Yeah, Western thought is always, that's the dualistic. Knowledge is dualistic. Human language is dualistic. Yeah. So when we talk something, in a daily life, all human, talking are contradictory. It is illogical. Yeah.
What do you mean by contradictory?
Oh, it's the absurd.
Oh, I see.
For instance, I show you. This plant is green. Okay? People, this is ordinary language. Okay? But this, let's sentences, we have illogical. This sentence is illogical because green is already green. Okay? Not black, not red, not blue, not yellow. It is, green. But that is, personal feeling. If some, have a blind color, color blind person come, and he, oh no, this is red, he may say, yes, sir.
Is then verbal description of that plant essence?
Plant has no essence, no. No substance, no. No characteristic, no. It has nothing.
Well, even that's illogical, because you say it.
It.
Yeah, it has nothing. So
Yeah, that is only, that's pronoun. So there is no it. No. And also there is no plant anywhere because plant is the name of the group. This is individual plant, is not plant. You know that? Are you a human being? Are you a human being? Are you a human being? No. No. Because you are not, the group, individual. Therefore, the human being is a name of a group. So it is only, how to say, abstract name, not, that actual name. But Western logician, made a big mistake.
Gee, it's a good thing he made a mistake because we wouldn't know who we are.
Yeah. Who you are? Who he was.
As a result of the logic.
Yeah. Yeah. Because logic is, we have there is no logic anywhere. Yeah. Logic is, how to say, it's, some science of knowledge. So, how do we understand things, scientifically, logically? Yes, sir.
Granted that language is inadequate to express my descriptions or my feelings of the flower.
Yes, I think so.
How in Eastern thought is it perceived? Is it experienced?
Yeah, it is impossible to perceive. All perception is an illusion. Yes. Yeah. So mindlessness, empty mind is everything. But we can understand anything, with our, mindlessness, mind, no mindless mind. You know? So that is called wisdom. In our wisdom, we have no concept necessary. Just the normal concept. But we can experience it, not understand it. We can experience it. And the plant and I myself have no difference. And one, knower and known must be one, identical. That is true understanding. It is part of me. I am part of it. Yeah. That is true understanding. Otherwise, if I separate it from this, this is only my concept, not a plant anymore. Yes, when we chant this title of the Lotus Sutra, it is a very powerful mantra. It is mystical, not mystical. Yeah, we can say mystical. We can say it is a very sacred, powerful. It's a mantra. So we can accomplish, Buddha's enlightenment with our own, mind and body. Mind and body are, one. In the Western world, not only Western world, in Oriental world also, ordinary people, discriminate. Mind and matter are separated, but it is not so. Okay. And the subject and object must be separated, independent existence. No, it is not true. There is no mind without, the world. There is no world without mind. Some, materialists, understand world, is more, fundamental, basic existence. Our mind appears later, much later, temporarily. But that is a very foolish idea. And some people says, and there was a very big tree in the forest. No one knew it fell, it was fallen. There was a big sound. It might have, but no one knew that. But sound was, really there. That kind of, foolish discussion are very common. Just like in the kids talk, which is first, the chicken or eggs? Same, same discussion. But most of people are mentally the same. Realistic and dualistic. We must get out as soon as possible. And this mantra is like a sunlight or a moonlight. It destroys all darkness in the world. Just like that. this mantra, which is very, very powerful. It has mystical power and destroy all human greed, anger, and suspicion. So, make them free. Make all people free themselves from attachment and illusions. And also in the sutra said, this mantra is very powerful, like a sword of Sakura Deva King. He was a Hindu god, the Almighty in the heaven. Sakura, Deva King. He has a very sharp sword. So, that no Mara. Mara is Satan in Christianity. They tempt the human, ordinary people. So, this Sakura king has a very sharp sword. So they can't fight with him. Just like that, this mantra all break down. It's the ignorant point of view. Like realism, realistic view, dualistic view, egoistic view. And also, one more simile, example we have. It is like good medicine of the great physician. He has a very broad knowledge of medication. His medicine was very powerful and cure all kind of sickness and pain and suffering. Just like that. Likewise, this mantra is powerful. Then all break up or cure the human suffering, anxieties, fears, all kind of troublesome. So when you have something, anxiety, fear, anything, chant this mantra. Then everything disappears. In the sutra said. Okay, do you have any question? We have much time tonight. And I think that I have enough time, so I show you another picture. This picture I showed you 2 times before, but I don't know how many people saw it. I think a little lower. Can you see it? Okay. This is Nagarjuna's great philosopher Buddhist philosopher in the 2nd century in India. This is so famous. He wrote Majjhimaka Karika. That is middle path. In this Karika, verse is like a poem. There are about 485, the short poem style verses. He said that everything arises according to the dependent origination. We regard it as emptiness or shunyata in Sanskrit. But it is a phenomenal reality. By the virtue of appearances, which is at the same time the middle path. I tell you and explain it to you. We have a very beautiful flower here. Most of people understand it. This is a phenomenal reality because it is a dependent origination. It had causes and also, the helping circumstance, the environmental causes. One cause does not produce any effect. Cause must be hundreds, thousands, millions more, innumerable, causes. Even I have a stick here. It is wood, okay? So, that people understand this stick comes from wood. It is wooden stick. But wood is growing in the forest, mountain or forest. Wood is not only one cause. Someone cut it. Someone grew it, something helping it, helped it to grow in the mountain. So sunlight was environmental cause, and air, and temperature, and some other, soil, and water. There are so many whole universal causes helping this wood grew. So this is wood does not become this stick. Man cut it off down and brought it to the mill and saw it and lumber. And someone brings lumber and make this kind of rings, shape. So, someone, bought it and brought it to the store. And I went there and bought it. So I cut in short and brought it here. So it has many, many causes. No one single cause can produce any effect. Okay? Yeah, just like that. Now everything is this flower is not, accidental being. It is causality, existence, causation, product of causation. Not only the ordinary causation. Western causation is only very, very realistic causation because the causes existed before the effect. It is impossible. Okay? If a cause exists, that without effect, that is not a cause. It is accidental existence. Cause was accidental existence. So effect must be accidental, existence. This kind of theory is called accidentalism. Accidentalism. So Western causation, theory of causation, is accidentalism. Everything happened haphazard. I don't know. Haphazard? Haphazard. Thank you. By chance. So this is not, that haphazard existence. So it has no substance, no characteristics, no form, no appearance, no beauty, no color, no smell, no substance, and no, no self-nature. So, that this is empty. Temporarily, we call it empty. But of course, this is not empty. It must be such. It is flower. It is beautiful. It is some kind of shape. So it is, that's wonderful. So this is, last one, the middle part. And the emptiness, is this, this is emptiness. We regard it as emptiness, nothingness, voidness. This voidness, and also, there is no voidness anywhere. It must be something. This something is always void, but there is no void. It must be something. That something is called the suchness, or middle path. So I am middle path, you are middle path. But you are, the phenomenal being, reality. But it is not so, empty, but not empty. So you have three kind of natures with you. Phenomenal reality, and emptiness, and the middle path. This middle path is the Buddha nature, enlightened nature. Yeah, that's this mantra of the Daimoku or Nammyo Renge Kyo can cure all your suffering, or that sickness, illusion, defilement. So when you hate, you are suffering, anxiety, and some kind of that's some tragedies, mishaps. You can chant it loudly. So your mind become calm, and enlightenment appears in you. So this is the most powerful practice in the whole universe. Not like meditation, not like wisdom. In the Saddharma Sutra, this practice is more powerful than 6 paramita. Paramita is conduct of bodhisattva. Dana paramita, Shila paramita, and Ksantai paramita, and Zen paramita, Prajna paramita, and one more Virya, that is of effort, paramita. But those parameter is the conduct of bodhisattva, not Buddha. No? This is the conduct of the Buddha. That's why it is powerful. When you are enlightened, everybody must be enlightened with you. So you must be the Buddha. All other parameter is personal parameter, behavior. It is practice, even meditation. One person meditate and attain to tranquility, not enlightenment. Enlightenment is one enlightenment, universal enlightenment. When one person attain to enlightenment, everything, everybody must be enlightened with him. That is anuttara samyak sambodhi, equal enlightenment. So we must practice this enlightenment. Okay? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, we have half an hour. Earlier. Yeah. Yeah, please, do you have any question? No? If you like. No? I like to explain these three, that's round view. But if you understand this part, you don't need this kind of, explanation. So I didn't. Yes.
This mantra is to remind you of something that is to remind you. You say that in itself it has its own self nature.
Yeah, that is my self nature. I was enlightened with the Buddha. At the same time, he was enlightened.
I understand that, but saying sounds,
Oh.
saying a mantra is a different thing. You know what I mean? Is it to if we didn't know what you were talking about, we didn't know that the equality and distinction and causes we come together.
Yeah.
We didn't know that it wouldn't make any difference.
It's no difference. Understanding is impossible. Buddha understood it. We believe in Buddha's enlightenment. That is mine, not my ability. Human, that understanding is impossible. Human, because it is illusion. We don't need to understand anything. Just we trust the Buddha's enlightenment.
We have to understand that. We have to understand with our mind the Buddha, and then.
Yeah.
So we can't do that. I can't do that. How can I understand the Buddha?
So that we repeat, that we copy the Buddha's enlightenment. Buddha understood this kind of enlightenment and became the Buddha. We trust, we believe in the Buddha, and we are following, the Buddha, after him. So the power of belief, that is important. Understanding is not enough. Buddha's enlightenment is not understanding.
Belief is a kind of understanding.
No, sir.
I mean,
Understanding
belief
is
another
conceptual.
concept, is another-
Yeah, understanding is.
Isn't belief like belief is another concept?
Ordinary belief is conceptual. But when we chant until we have no mind, sometimes in one chanting, he became the Buddha. But some times, and some people chant 10 times, 100 times, then, they have no mind. So they are, achieve or accomplish, they are enlightened.
Is it like faith? Is it
Just like faith, yes.
faith, which
Faith.
is not a concept?
Yeah, not a concept. Understand?
If that was the case, then all we'd have to do is come in here and chant. We wouldn't need to do anything else. We just say,
Ah.
well, we have faith and we chant.
Yeah, some people do not need, but even chanting, they are chanting with mouth, but mind is, out. So they need mind and, voice and, the conduct must be, united into one. Otherwise, it is not perfect, complete enlightenment.
But that's the object of all meditations, is to do that. I mean, I've never heard of a meditation that wasn't designed to do that. That was the idea. When you sit,
Yeah, meditation is an attain to no mindedness, that's all. No mindedness. It is a practice of bodhisattva.
well, if there's no mind, then we would be enlightened, wouldn't we?
No mind is not enlightenment. No. We must go out from no mindedness and mindfulness. Mindfulness and mindlessness must be one, same thing. Some people, that only negatively, they attain, wish to be emptiness. No. Those people have no compassion. Yeah. Compassion is important, because, until everybody become enlightenment, we chant, so we need this, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. We salute everybody like a Buddha. So meditation is I don't care other people. I myself is important. This is very, very selfish.
What is faith?
Huh?
What is faith?
Faith, yeah, faith is compassion. Faith is, we put, that whole things, devotion. I devote myself to the sacred truth. That is devotion. So, if I devote myself, there is no my mind anymore. There is no my body anymore. I become the Buddha nature. Buddha's enlightenment into one, like that. That is true faith. Yeah. When you pay your devotion to the Christian God and you must be one, not separation. At that time, you and God are one person. Yeah. Understanding cannot go there. Understanding is illusion. The Buddha is there always, not comes into you. God is, that Buddha is my concept. I am a Buddha's concept. But, enlightened concept. Buddha's concept is enlightened concept. Human concept is a dualistic concept. So, it is not the same concept. When I throw myself, forget the self, at that time I become the Buddha, completely. That is true enlightenment, one enlightenment. Now, only one enlightenment exists in the whole universe. That is Buddha's enlightenment. There is no human enlightenment. So I put myself into the Buddha's enlightenment. That is important.
But you said so much, all this time you've been telling us that you can't get in or out of enlightenment, that there's nothing to try. So if I'm going to chant to get enlightened, no matter what whatever my concept of
Yeah.
enlightenment is, I'm trying to get enlightened, whether it's universal or individual.
Yeah.
I'm trying. And
Yeah, that is, until you practice chanting, until you have no self. When you are there and you are chanting, you are knowing, you are chanting. That is, separated from the Buddha's enlightenment. When chant, this title, and you have no self anymore. There is no Buddha anymore. There is no self anymore. And then there is no chanting anymore. At that time, it is one enlightenment, universal enlightenment appears.
This is the most difficult.
Yes, sir. Yes, I know, very difficult, okay? Now experience it, try it,
It sounds, after all this time, it sounds right at the very end now, it sounds so, I hate to say it, but Christian.
Yeah. All religions are the same. In this point, all religions are same. We have many different schools in Buddhism. The how to say, most essential point must be one. Selflessness. And this selflessness is the universal self. If we have a self, concept of self, it is individual self. But when we have no idea, no concept of self, at that time, myself become universal and eternal too. Our self must be universal and eternal. That is only Buddha's enlightenment. And we join, we unite into the one Buddha's enlightenment. Everyone. So you become the Buddha.
I am, you told me I was already.
No. No, that is, that's human world is very dualistic. Don't, attach to my words. No, I said nothing. I said nothing.
I hear nothing.
Yeah, you heard nothing. That's good. Yeah. So, only enlightenment, universal enlightenment is, Buddha's enlightenment, fulfilled all, universe. You and I is a part of enlightenment. Yeah. We must experience this enlightenment with my mind and body. Yeah. It is not like a meditation or wisdom. That is only a conceptual. Yeah. We don't need any this kind of practice.
Well, the other day, somebody came down the street and he had a little tract, and it said in the tract, if you chant Nam Myoho,
Yeah, that's right.
that you will get anything you want,
Yeah,
like money
yeah,
and power
Yeah.
and anything you want to make your life better,
yeah.
and all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
It tells you all this kind of thing.
So,
So-
say nothing, it's okay. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is not the words, it is a mantra. You know the meaning of mantra?
You just told us, you've been telling us that.
Yeah. So mantra, okay. Yes, sir.
I had a dream a long time ago
Yes, sir.
in which this Japanese guy tells me that you have to be really careful about what you
My,
You might get it.
oh,
And he tells me that because you might not be ready for what you want.
yeah.
And it was in relation to this mantra.
Oh,
Some
but you
people
know,
chant this mantra to get certain
oh,
things. but
he
you
was
have-
not enlightened yet.
It was in my. he says, be careful what you
Yeah,
want.
yeah. So many people, you know, that chant this kind of mantra, you know, but their mental state is not pure yet. That's why, huh?
It's dualistic.
Still dualistic, you know. You know, because I need some profit, I need some happiness, you know, I need some peace. This kind of desire, you know, is very, you know, that's typical, how say, illusion. You know, when we are enlightened, you know, that we are enlightened from the beginningless beginning, always, now, you know, in the past, in the future, at the present. So we cannot get out from this enlightenment. Okay? We are not outsider. No? We are now the Buddha. That is the Buddha's enlightenment. If we understand the Buddha's enlightenment, no, we are the appreciation. That's all. No? Oh, Buddha said he attained to the Buddha food. You know, how to say that for all human beings. Just like Jesus was crucified, crucified into the cross, you know, on the cross. You know, he was crucified for the people, all mankind. You know? Just like that. Buddha was enlightened. You know? His enlightenment was not his personal enlightenment. You know? All human, or not only human being, all existences enlightenment. That's why I adore. I put, my homage to the Buddha. It is a part of me. I am part of him. That is Buddha's enlightenment. Buddha and I are the same person from the beginning, not a different person. Buddha and you are the not same different person. Same person from the beginning. Then you can chant it. Anuttara Samyak Sambodha is okay. It is the same or equal enlightenment. Buddha and I have a same, equal enlightenment. That is, good enough. Yes, sir.
You say that you chant or meditate until you kind of reach emptiness.
Huh?
You chant or you meditate until you reach emptiness.
Yeah.
And earlier you said something about some people do it to reach emptiness.
Yeah.
But you said that they have no compassion.
Yeah.
And you said that you have to have emptiness and mindfulness
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
How does compassion fit in?
Yeah, compassion is, both are compassionate, compassion. Emptiness is compassion, and, everything is compassion. But human compassion are conceptual compassion. That's why it is a concept of compassion, not compassion. So I said human, compassion is not real compassion. It is illusion, delusive compassion. Yeah. Like a human meditation is a delusive practice. It is not real meditation. Real meditation have no self, okay? And that selflessness is a self-fullness. lessness and fullness are one thing, not different at all. That's why, we shouldn't, enjoy the mindlessness. No. In the meditation, we have no joy. No. Some people like, the peacefulness in meditation, but that is not a meditation. So, real selfness, that is unexplicable. It is not empty, not fulfilled.
Is compassion the same as such?
Yes, sure. And enlightenment, nirvana, suchness, middle path, and Buddha nature, all are same, meaning. Yes. This universe is a Buddha nature, and Buddha's body, we can say so. Yeah. And also, this universe is nothing. But also, we can say it is a phenomenal reality, like this flower. It is emptiness. It is suchness. It is phenomenal reality. It is flower, we can say. Those three aspects, the point of view must be one. No obstruction between them. Okay. That is enlightenment, through free mind. Enlightenment is a free mind. No obstruction in it. No affirmation, no negation. Human mind is wish to, understand it. So they wish to affirm something. They wish to negate something. Both are extreme, idea. So our mind must be neutral always. That is a middle path. Yes. That is a Buddha nature. That is enlightenment. That is nirvana. So,
If everything is equal, then anything we say is equal.
no, not equal. That is, in the partial view, point of view. Not equal, not different.
I'm sorry. If
Yeah.
everything we say, if everything is such,
Yes,
then anything in that context, anything we say is such.
yeah, but if you attach it to suchness, that is big illusion. It is a concept. No?
Not in, no,
You don't need any word. If you say something, your word is dualistic.
like Nam Myoho Renge Kyo.
Yeah, it is not words. Some people chant words. So the true Nam-myoho Renge have no sound. It is enlightenment. It is equality. It is tranquility. It is peacefulness. So the voice is not so important. But this voice is very helpful to self or to others, because that's why we call it a mantra. Mantra. Mantra is a voice, sound. Sound must be a very powerful, that move the people, human mind, encourage it, human mind, and purify human mind. That's why mantra is very good.
Well, there's thousands of mantras. Each mantra is such.
This is the kings of kings,
It can't be any more such than such.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I mean, if there's higher such than such,
Lower such.
Did you
Nothing.
just say such for a mantra?
Yeah, no, that's, such is the mantra, the mantra of suchness, yes, we can say it. Mantra of suchness. Mantra of emptiness, we can say so. You know? But when we say something, it has some concept in it. Now, people grasp the concept, not the true meaning. That's why, we don't need, we don't like to talk. If we say something, people, just, running, catch that, concept. So they wish to understand what the meaning is that, There is no meaning anywhere.
So in mantras, as every religious belief seems to have a mantra. Jewish people have theirs.
Yeah.
In Hebrew, O Lord God
Sure.
of Israel.
Sure.
The Sikhs have theirs, Satnam. If you just repeated that mantra, would it be the same thing?
I don't know, same or not, because it is a mental state is important. What mind we chant it, with what mind we chant it. Our chanting is universal chanting, not selfish chanting. I need anything. I don't need anything. Only the Buddhas, I wish to join and unite with Buddha's enlightenment, universal enlightenment. That's all. I don't need my personal enlightenment. No. Yes, sir.
So what I understand is a chant or a mantra is really a meaningless sound.
Yeah, medium.
One repeats
Yeah.
that one can concentrate on to keep one's
Not
mind
necessary to concentrate. That is another problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for the beginner.
Not just concentration, but a repetitive sound, that by itself has no meaning.
Yeah.
But the purpose is to quiet one's mental chatter, one's mind.
No, not the mental
To
shape.
lose one's mind,
Mind.
that voice that's going on in your head all the time. Is that-
No, not necessary. That is a concept. Concept. So, concept of chanting is not the true chanting. When we chant loudly, but we don't know it.
Is listening to the sound that you're chanting the most
At
important?
first, yes. At first, we hear my voice. But later on, I have no, listener. And no thing to make a voice. No self, no Buddha, no enlightenment, no, chanting. If there is a chanting, that is concept of chanting, not the chanting itself. Yes, sir.
I know that you said that one of the goals or one of the results of chanting is that we have no thoughts, no concepts in our mind, no mind. But since we are human beings and we have human nature and we do have thoughts, does it matter what thoughts we have in our mind as we're chanting?
Yes.
Context?
Yes, it is very nice point. Very good point. We have always this kind of discussion in this practice. When we chant, that our human understanding always, appears and cognize own conduct, own practice, of chanting. I am chanting. Oh, this is too loud, too like that, So that is, that is our judgment. So we must go further, go beyond, And chanting, the continuous, 10 times, 100 times. Then, that until we have no idea, no feeling, no self, no, chanting title, no conduct, no feeling, nothing. Until that is, no Buddha, no self, no chanting, no conduct. At that time, we join, we becomes one with the Buddha. Yeah. This very, short moment, even this short moment is very, very powerful moment. Yes. So you later on you are so pleased, you and the satisfaction, and that is human, memory. But people like it. You can enjoy it later in your memory. But that is not not enlightenment. That is human humanity, human conduct, human behavior, human feeling. Yeah, that's why human being is very, very good. That's people like enjoyment, pleasure, happiness, serenities, tranquilities. It all these concepts are in our memory. But at the moment, the present moment, there is no idea, no concept, just no self in it, no chanting, anything, just emptiness, like empty, but not emptiness. It is such. Anyway, try it. Then you can realize it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Is it as powerful to just think it as to verbalize it too?
Verbalize.
To speak it?
Yeah, it is powerful. That at first we cognize own voice, which is so powerful. But I think it is not so important. But when other people hear it, it very impressed. It was true, but it is not so important. Because everybody, everybody is enlightened from the beginning. Everybody doesn't need to be to enter the nirvana or enlightenment. So powerful is not so important. Quiet is better. Quietness is better. Yes.
Why it's so hard for me to speak Japanese words? I can never remember them. Yes, I'll never get
I don't know. Maybe it is dualistic.
Could I say it in English translation?
Yeah, English translation is very difficult. More dualistic, in my opinion. Japanese, Chinese, is sometimes we have neutral words, and the logic itself is different. The Western logic is very, very strict. Every word has own definition. But in Japanese people or Chinese people understand